The sky over Earth darkened as the Therian fleet, a massive alien armada, entered orbit. Ships of unimaginable size hovered above the clouds, their hulls gleaming with strange energy. People on the ground stared up in fear. Cities fell silent as millions watched the sky. The aliens had observed humanity for decades and decided humans were weak, primitive, and not worth their attention. They had planned an easy victory, a swift conquest to prove their superiority. But they did not know humans. Captain Daniel Harris, a young pilot in the Earth Defense Force, stood on the tarmac of a military airbase. His hands rested on the control panel of his fighter jet, but his mind was calm. Around him, other pilots prepared their ships. Some were nervous, but Daniel felt something different. He felt ready. He had trained for this moment all his life, and even if the aliens were stronger, faster, and armed with strange weapons, he trusted in human courage and ingenuity. Above, satellites tracked the alien ships as they moved in formation. Military scientists had warned of a possible attack, but most of the world had been unprepared. Governments scrambled, sending urgent messages to their people. Cities were evacuated and emergency shelters were opened. Yet even with the chaos, humans began to unite. Old rivalries were set aside. Nations that had once fought over land and resources now shared intelligence and weapons. Humanity's divisions melted in the face of a threat that no single country could fight alone. Dr. Emily Clark, a scientist in charge of Earth's orbital defense systems, studied the alien fleet with a mixture of fear and determination. She had spent years preparing for this day, building sensors, energy shields, and early warning systems. Her lab was filled with screens and holographic displays, all showing the alien ships. She knew the technology of these aliens was beyond anything humans had built. Their weapons could destroy cities with a single strike. Their shields seemed impenetrable. Still, she believed that human creativity and teamwork could find a way. As the first alien ship entered low orbit, a silence fell across the planet. People everywhere could see the glowing lines of the ships, and some thought the world would end in hours. The Therians, proud and confident, sent a warning broadcast. It was calm, cold, and unyielding. They demanded Earth's surrender. They laughed at humans, calling them weak, unpredictable, and unworthy of consideration. The message echoed through every communication device, reaching every home, every office, every remote village. It was meant to intimidate, to crush human morale before the first attack. But instead of fear, something unexpected happened. Humans prepared to fight. In the air bases, pilots climbed into their cockpits, checking weapons and engines. Soldiers took their positions at anti-air batteries, while engineers made last-minute repairs to ships that were decades old. Civilians volunteered for tasks they had never imagined, running emergency operations, delivering supplies, and supporting their communities. The streets, once filled with panic, now carried a quiet energy. People were not just afraid, they were determined. They had survived storms, earthquakes, wars, and crises before. Now, faced with an enemy from the stars, they felt that same determination, multiplied by hope and courage. Daniel Harris's jet roared to life. As he taxied down the runway, he thought of the stories his grandfather had told him about old wars. The strategies, the bravery, the moments when ordinary humans had faced impossible odds and survived. He realized that the same spirit flowed in him and his fellow pilots. It was not just skill that mattered, it was willpower, imagination, and the refusal to give up. Around him, the other pilots shared the same unspoken understanding. They did not have the advanced weapons of the Therians, but they had something the aliens could not measure: heart. From orbit, the alien commanders observed Earth with arrogance. They saw crowded cities, thin skies filled with fragile aircraft, and armies that seemed chaotic. To them, humans were fragile creatures, too weak to resist the mighty Therian fleet. They whispered among themselves, certain the war would be short. Some ships hovered closer to test Earth's defenses, but the humans did not flee. They did not panic. They stood ready, even when many did not know exactly how they would fight. On the ground, Dr. Clark adjusted the settings on a new defense system. It was experimental and risky, but she hoped it would give humanity an edge. If they come close, she told her team, we have a chance. We may be weak, but we are smart and we fight as one. Her words spread quickly through the network of scientists, pilots, and soldiers. Hope and determination spread alongside fear, growing stronger with every passing hour. It was the human way, to take even the smallest chance and make it into a weapon of survival. In cities and villages across the globe, families huddled together, but even there, children and adults alike showed courage. Emergency broadcast messages instructed people to stay safe, but many volunteered to help anyway. They delivered food, transported supplies, and guided those in danger to safety. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, people acted with calm purpose. The aliens did not see this yet. They assumed fear would dominate, that humanity would crumble before the first strike. They were wrong. Daniel's jet lifted into the sky as the first alien scout ships came closer. He felt a rush of adrenaline but also clarity. The Therians expected humans to flee, to beg for mercy, to collapse under their weapons. Instead, humans were ready. They had no guarantee of victory, no advanced alien technology, but they had courage, creativity, and determination. These were qualities the aliens could not measure. Even from orbit, Dr. Clark's systems detected patterns in human movement, coordination that no one could have predicted. Humans adapted in real time, thinking, reacting, and surviving. As the alien fleet moved into position, Earth's forces responded in kind. Satellites scrambled, satellites aimed defensive beams, fighter jets patrolled the skies, and radar systems calculated trajectories at speeds no human had thought possible. Daniel and his squadron flew through clouds, dodging strange alien sensors and energy pulses, while on the ground anti-air defenses readied themselves for the first impact. Every human involved, from scientists to soldiers to civilians, became part of a single organism, a collective mind driven by survival. By the time the Therian commanders realized that humans were organized, it was almost too late. Their initial arrogance had made them slow and overconfident. Humans, fragile as they appeared, were already moving, adapting, and preparing. Captain Daniel Harris and his team climbed higher, ready to confront the first alien scout. Below them, Earth was alive with purpose. Engineers patched broken machines, civilians carried messages, and soldiers stood guard. Fear existed, but it was controlled and focused into action. The Therians, proud and cold, had assumed this war would be easy. They had believed humans could not fight in any organized way, that they would panic under pressure. But humans were unpredictable. They were creative, fast-thinking, and connected by something deeper than technology: hope, courage, and unity. Daniel thought about this as he soared higher, scanning the alien ships. They were massive, more powerful than anything humans had ever faced, yet he did not feel helpless. He felt alive, part of a planet that had refused to surrender before and would not surrender now. As the alien fleet prepared to strike, the first human defenses moved into place. Satellites activated, fighter jets flew in formation, and civilian networks began transmitting vital information. Dr. Clark monitored everything, her heart pounding but her mind sharp. Every calculation mattered, every decision could change the outcome. And above it all, Captain Daniel Harris felt the weight of responsibility. But he also felt something else: confidence. Humans may have been underestimated, but they were ready. The sky over Earth was dark with alien ships, but below, light and hope burned brighter than ever. The Therians had come to conquer, to prove their superiority, and to crush what they considered an insignificant species. They had assumed the battle would be swift. They had assumed humans were fragile and easy to destroy. But the first moment of confrontation had already proven them wrong. Humans may have been fragile in appearance, but inside they were built for survival, for courage, and for war. The Therians opened fire without warning. Energy beams shot from their massive ships, slicing through the skies and striking Earth's largest cities. Glass shattered, buildings crumbled, and fires broke out in the streets. Sirens wailed across continents. People ran for cover, clutching their families, but even in the chaos, humanity did not surrender. Captain James Porter, a skilled pilot in the Earth Defense Force, watched the destruction unfold from his jet high above the clouds. He could see the alien energy beams tearing through city blocks, yet his hands moved with calm precision over the controls. Around him, other fighter jets darted through the air, weaving between explosions. They fired their weapons, trying to slow the alien advance. Every movement was tense, every decision crucial. Humans had no chance to match the raw power of the Therian ship for ship, but they had something more valuable: speed, creativity, and courage. On the ground, Dr. Emily Clark and her team worked frantically in their laboratory. The building shook as alien energy blasts struck nearby. Sparks flew from broken equipment, but the scientists did not panic. Using captured alien drones from earlier skirmishes, they worked to reverse engineer the technology. Each machine was carefully analyzed, its systems studied, its energy source examined. Slowly, piece by piece, the humans learned how to turn alien devices into defensive weapons. Dr. Clark instructed her team with calm authority. "We cannot match them in strength," she said, "but we can fight smarter. Every drone we capture, every system we hack, is another chance to protect lives. Her words spread quickly through the network of scientists and engineers. Messages were relayed to soldiers and pilots. Even civilians became part of the effort. Volunteers built barricades, repaired damaged power lines, and created communication networks to keep information flowing. Humanity was acting as one, each person playing their part in a battle they could not ignore. In orbit, Captain Laura Mitchell led a squadron of fighter jets to intercept the alien scouts. The Therians had sent these smaller ships ahead to test Earth's defenses. The scouts moved quickly, scanning for weak points, firing their weapons at anything that moved. Mitchell's squadron dodged with careful precision, weaving through energy blasts while returning fire. Explosions lit the darkness of space as alien ships were damaged and destroyed. The battle was unlike anything humans had faced before. Cities burned, yet humans fought back with ingenuity. Improvised weapons, hacked drones, and modified aircraft gave them an advantage in ways the Therians did not expect. For every alien ship destroyed, human confidence grew. Soldiers cheered over their radios. Civilians who had helped build barricades watched the news with hope. The chaos of the first strike became a moment of unity. Fear still existed, but it was directed into action. Captain James Porter's squadron became a symbol of human resilience. He flew close to a Therian ship, dodging streams of energy while firing missiles that had been modified to pierce alien shields. Around him, jets moved like a swarm, protecting one another, adapting their tactics in real time. For the first time, the Therians noticed something unusual. Humans were not panicking. They were not fleeing. They were fighting back with strategy, teamwork, and courage. Each attack revealed new tactics, each counterattack showed intelligence and bravery. On the ground, Dr. Clark's team had success with their modified drones. The machines, once tools of the aliens, now patrolled cities, firing defensive energy bursts at incoming attacks. They moved with precision, guided by human operators who understood the alien technology in ways the Therians had not imagined. Civilians assisted by guiding drones to locations where they could intercept attacks, repair damaged units, or relay signals to pilots in the air. Earth cities were becoming defensive fortresses, combining human creativity with alien tech in a way that surprised everyone. Families in shelters listened to updates from radio and satellite broadcasts. Children asked questions and parents explained that humans were fighting not just to survive, but to show that courage mattered. People helped each other, moving supplies, carrying the injured, and creating safe paths through debris. Even as explosions rocked the streets, humans acted with focus and determination. It was not just a fight for survival, it was a fight for pride, for identity, for the idea that humanity would not bow to a superior force without struggle. Back in orbit, Captain Laura Mitchell spotted a group of alien scouts approaching an important supply station. Using quick thinking, she led her squadron into an ambush, hiding behind an asteroid belt. The humans waited until the aliens were close, then struck from multiple angles. Explosions rocked the scouts, disabling their engines and leaving them drifting in space. The maneuver was risky, but it worked. Human ingenuity had turned a dangerous situation into an opportunity. The aliens began to take note. These humans were unpredictable, clever, and relentless. Captain James Porter coordinated with ground forces, sending precise instructions to avoid civilian casualties while maximizing impact on the alien fleet. Engineers on Earth used improvised communications to relay real-time data from the battlefield. Rockets launched from hidden locations struck alien ships in weak points discovered by Dr. Clark's analysis. For the Therians, every defeat was confusing. They expected panic, not planning. They expected surrender, not courage. Humans were changing the battle with every action, and the aliens had no way to anticipate it. Even in the midst of destruction, humans adapted. When one city was heavily damaged, evacuation plans moved people to safe zones while engineers repaired critical infrastructure. Drones patrolled streets, guided by civilians with simple controls. Fighter jets covered every approach, while communication networks allowed soldiers and pilots to coordinate over vast distances. Humans did not have the alien ship's raw power, but they had flexibility, speed, and determination. These qualities turned fear into action, weakness into strength. Dr. Clark watched as her modified drones intercepted a powerful alien beam that could have destroyed a hospital. The machines moved like living creatures, avoiding obstacles, protecting civilians, and striking with precision. She smiled, realizing that humans were learning quickly. Each success built confidence, and confidence became courage. Each victory, no matter how small, showed that humans were not helpless. They were adaptable, resilient, and capable of great creativity under pressure. By the end of the first day, the Therians had begun to retreat in small groups after suffering unexpected losses. Captain James Porter's squadron had destroyed multiple alien ships, while Captain Laura Mitchell had led several ambushes that crippled scout groups. Cities were scarred, but humans had survived the first strike and even fought back effectively. People cheered in shelters, celebrated in safe areas, and mourned their losses quietly, knowing the fight was only beginning. The Therians, observing from orbit and beyond, were shocked. They had assumed humans would collapse, that fear would dominate, and that their superior technology would ensure a swift victory. Instead, they saw a species that fought as one, a species that adapted quickly, and a species that refused to surrender. Humans were showing ingenuity, courage, and teamwork that the aliens had never expected. The battle had begun, and already the first lesson was clear. Humans were not simple prey. Captain James Porter looked at the horizon as fires burned in the distance. He felt exhaustion but also pride. Humanity had faced its first real challenge from the stars, and it had not only survived, it had fought back. He thought of Dr. Clark, of the volunteers in the cities, of civilians who had risked their lives to protect others. Together they had turned chaos into strength. The aliens may have underestimated humans, but humans had already proven their worth. The Therians regrouped, confused and cautious. They had expected an easy conquest, but the humans had shown skill, courage and resilience. Each attack had been met with planning, each strike had been countered with ingenuity. The aliens realized that humans were capable of thinking, adapting, and fighting in ways that were unexpected. They were learning a lesson that could not be ignored. Humans were dangerous not because of strength alone but because of heart, mind, and unity. As night fell over the planet, cities glowed with fires, lights, and the signs of life that persisted despite destruction. Humans prepared for the next wave, ready to continue the fight. Captain Laura Mitchell returned from orbit, exhausted but exhilarated, knowing that humans had achieved what few thought possible. Pilots, engineers, and civilians had all contributed, and for the first time the aliens were beginning to understand. Humans did not panic. Humans did not surrender. Humans fought together, and that made them stronger than the Therians had imagined. The first strike had ended, but the battle was far from over. Still, humanity had learned a critical truth. Fear could be turned into action, chaos into strategy, and weakness into courage. The Therians had fired their first shots, expecting easy victory, but humans had met them with more than resistance. They had met them with ingenuity, teamwork, and a will to survive that no force in the galaxy had anticipated. And in that moment, as the fires burned and pilots returned to base, Earth proved that it was more than a planet. It was a home for a species built to fight, survive, and adapt. The Therians had assumed humans were weak, but the first strike had shown them the truth. Humans were fighters and they would not give up easily. The battle had grown fiercer. The Therians had unleashed their most advanced warships, enormous vessels bristling with weapons that could obliterate entire cities in minutes. From orbit, their energy beams cut across the planet, leaving trails of fire and smoke. The aliens expected Earth to crumble under their power, but humans were no longer scattered and disorganized. They had learned from the first strike. They had adapted. They had organized. Commander Richard Hale, a veteran of many conflicts on Earth, took charge of coordinating attacks across continents. Communication lines linked every military unit, every city's defense network, and every pilot in the sky. Using satellites, drones, and encrypted channels, he directed fighter squadrons, ground forces, and anti-air batteries with precise timing. He gave clear instructions, moving units to weak points in the alien formation while keeping civilians safe. His calm voice over the radio became a beacon of order amid chaos. On the ground, engineers like Peter Collins worked tirelessly to disrupt the Therian sensors. The aliens had relied on their advanced technology to track human movements, to anticipate strategies, to calculate every step. Collins and his team hacked into these systems, creating false signals, scrambling coordinates, and feeding misleading data to the enemy fleet. Alien ships fired at empty skies, energy beams wasted, while humans moved freely behind their defenses. The confusion slowed the Therians, forcing them to rethink their tactics. Every sensor that failed, every weapon that missed, gave humans more time to adapt, to fight, and to survive. Civilians played a crucial role in this effort. Men, women, and even teenagers volunteered to carry messages across dangerous zones, repair damaged equipment, and supply soldiers with food, water, and medical aid. Brave volunteers guided rescue operations in cities hit by alien attacks, often risking their lives to save strangers. Their courage surprised even the soldiers. Some civilians organized makeshift communication centers, helping pilots coordinate with ground forces. Others created decoys to trick alien sensors or rerouted electricity to power emergency defenses. Every act of bravery, no matter how small, contributed to the overall strategy of survival. In the skies, human pilots adapted to the Therians' superior technology. Captain Laura Mitchell flew through debris and fire, leading her squadron in daring maneuvers that seemed impossible. Fighters dodged energy beams, looped around massive alien ships, and struck at vulnerable points discovered by Dr. Clark's team. Humans had learned that speed, creativity, and unpredictability were more valuable than raw strength. Every attack on the alien fleet was calculated, yet flexible, responding instantly to the enemy's movements. Commander Richard Hale watched the battle unfold from Earth's command center. He saw how humans were thriving in chaos. Each city's defense network, each squadron in the air, each team of engineers on the ground worked together as part of a single organism. Humans adapted to changing conditions, learned from every failure, and improved with every encounter. The Therians had thought humans were fragile, slow, and easy to defeat. They were discovering the opposite. Humans were fast learners, creative thinkers, and capable of extraordinary teamwork under pressure. Dr. Emily Clark continued her work in the lab, analyzing alien technology and devising new strategies. She modified captured drones into offensive weapons and enhanced communication networks to allow faster coordination between units. Using data from pilots and engineers, she developed systems that could predict Therian attacks. Her team worked around the clock, driven by the knowledge that every improvement could save thousands of lives. The lab was filled with tension, yet hope persisted. Every small victory, every successful hack, every drone that intercepted an alien strike reminded them that humans could fight back. Across the planet, civilians witnessed the war in real time. They saw fighters defending cities, anti-air batteries holding against alien fire, and engineers rerouting power to keep essential systems alive. News broadcasts showed humans performing incredible feats of bravery and intelligence. In shelters, people whispered stories of pilots diving into enemy fire, of scientists disabling alien sensors, and of volunteers saving lives under impossible conditions. Fear was still present, but it was focused into courage, determination, and action. Humans were proving that their greatest strength lay not in individual power, but in unity and ingenuity. The Therians were beginning to notice. Their commanders, once confident and dismissive, now spoke in tense, measured tones. They had underestimated humans, assuming that fear would dominate, that confusion would paralyze them. Instead, they saw humans thriving in chaos. Every tactic the aliens used was met with a counterattack. Every assault revealed new human strategies. They tried to overwhelm cities with massive energy strikes, but humans had learned to move, adapt, and protect what was vital. They tried to attack supply lines, but engineers like Peter Collins had anticipated it, creating decoys and traps that turned the attacks against the aliens. In the air, Captain James Porter led a daring operation against a Therian warship that had been targeting multiple cities. His squadron used every advantage humans had learned from earlier battles. They moved in formation, attacked weak points, and retreated before alien reinforcements could arrive. The warship sustained heavy damage and retreated for repairs, shocking the Therians. Humans were not just defending, they were taking the fight to the enemy, finding weaknesses in the fleet and exploiting them with courage and skill. Back on Earth, civilians continued to rise to the challenge. Volunteers guided drones into strategic positions, patched damaged energy shields, and supplied soldiers and pilots with everything they needed. Ordinary people were performing extraordinary acts, and these contributions were vital to the larger strategy. In some cities, small teams of civilians organized to relay critical information to soldiers and pilots, creating a network of intelligence that even the aliens could not fully understand. Humans had turned every weakness into a strength, every challenge into an opportunity to fight smarter. Commander Richard Hale saw that humans were becoming unstoppable not because of technology, but because of spirit. Fear had not destroyed them, it had sharpened their focus. Chaos had not paralyzed them, it had made them more inventive. The Therians had brought the most advanced warships in the galaxy, but they could not defeat an enemy that learned from every mistake, adapted to every situation, and acted as a unified force. Humans were thriving in the very environment that should have destroyed them. Dr. Clark smiled as she watched a simulation showing human drones intercepting alien energy beams and redirecting them toward alien ships. The simulations were based on real actions taken by volunteers, engineers, and soldiers. Every success gave them more confidence. Every failure taught them something new. Humans were proving that survival was more than defense. It was adaptation, creativity, and courage in the face of impossible odds. The Therians, now shaken, struggled to respond. They attempted new tactics, but humans had already anticipated many of them. Commanders of the alien fleet whispered among themselves, realizing that their earlier arrogance had been a grave mistake. Humans were not simply adaptable, they thrived in chaos. They responded to every attack with innovation. They turned fear into action, destruction into strategy, and weakness into resilience. Captain Laura Mitchell maneuvered her squadron through a dense field of debris left by a damaged Therian ship. With careful planning and quick reflexes, she guided her team in a coordinated strike that disabled several enemy ships. Each victory was small yet significant. The humans were beginning to win the psychological battle as well as the physical one. Confidence spread among soldiers, engineers, and civilians alike. The aliens were beginning to understand that this species was not easily defeated. As night fell, Earth's city still smoldered from the battle, but the planet had not fallen. Humans had proven they could fight together, adapt, and survive against a technologically superior enemy. Commander Richard Hale looked at the maps and data streams, planning the next move. The Therians had underestimated humans, and that mistake was costing them dearly. The tide of the battle had shifted, and the humans were ready for whatever came next. Captain James Porter and Captain Laura Mitchell returned to base, exhausted but proud. Pilots debriefed, engineers reported on the damage to alien ships, and civilians continued their work. Humanity had survived the turning point. They had shown that they were not weak, not helpless, and not afraid. The Therians had assumed Earth would crumble, but humans had responded with ingenuity, teamwork, and courage. For the first time, the aliens realized that defeating humans would not be simple. Every tactic, every weapon, every advance would be met with resistance, adaptation, and counterattack. From orbit, the Therians watched in disbelief. Humans were thriving in the chaos the aliens had created. They had underestimated a species that could think, adapt, and fight as one. The humans had turned a desperate situation into a test of ingenuity and courage, and they had passed. For the first time, the Therians felt doubt. Humans were dangerous not because of sheer strength but because of intelligence, spirit, and unity. And as Earth settled for a brief night, fires burning and cities preparing for the next wave, humans had learned an important lesson of their own. They could fight together, think quickly, and survive even against enemies far stronger than themselves. They had reached a turning point, not just in the battle but in the war. Chaos had become their ally, fear had become their fuel, and the Therians had begun to realize a truth they could not ignore. Humans were not just survivors. Humans were fighters, innovators, and unstoppable when united. The human counteroffensive began with careful planning and bold action. Earth's forces had learned from the first battles, adapted to the Therians' tactics, and now moved to strike at the heart of the alien fleet. Using modified alien ships captured during earlier skirmishes, along with homemade weapons created by engineers and scientists, humans prepared a daring assault. Every missile, energy beam, and fighter jet was ready to test the limits of human courage and ingenuity. Captain Anna Reed, one of Earth's best pilots, led the charge. Her squadron navigated asteroid fields and debris left by destroyed Therian ships, using the cover to approach the enemy undetected. Anna's fingers moved with precision over her controls, adjusting thrusters and firing weapons at the perfect moment. Around her, other pilots mirrored her movements, each trusting the other completely. It was a dangerous mission, but they had no choice. To survive, they had to strike back, and they had to do it together. On the ground, scientists and engineers worked side by side with soldiers. Makeshift workshops turned into factories of ingenuity, producing weapons that combined human and alien technology. Engineers modified captured alien energy cannons to be mobile, attaching them to armored vehicles. Scientists enhanced fighter missiles, improving their range and accuracy using data gathered from earlier encounters. Soldiers carried these weapons to the front lines, testing them in the heat of battle. Every strike, every maneuver, was a collaboration between intellect and courage, proving that humans could create as well as fight. The first wave of the counteroffensive struck a Therian command ship. Humans had carefully studied its patterns and they knew its weak points. Captain Anna Reed led her squadron in a coordinated attack, dodging energy beams, weaving through turrets, and striking with precision. The alien ship shuddered under the human assault. Explosions erupted along its hull as missiles and energy weapons tore through its shields. The Therians were shocked. They had assumed humans could only survive defensively, but now humans were attacking with boldness and skill. In orbit, other squadrons joined the fight. Captain James Porter led attacks on smaller Therian vessels, using high-speed maneuvers to avoid their weapons while delivering precise strikes. Pilots communicated in real time, coordinating attacks and sharing observations about alien weaknesses. Even minor errors by the Therians were exploited immediately. Humans were relentless, learning with each engagement, and the aliens began to realize that their previous arrogance had been a grave mistake. Back on Earth, Dr. Emily Clark monitored the battle and sent instructions to pilots and soldiers. Using data from modified drones and hacked alien sensors, she guided the human forces to exploit the Therians' vulnerabilities. Engineers like Peter Collins worked tirelessly to keep the weapon systems running, repairing damage and improving efficiency on the fly. Civilians assisted in unexpected ways, relaying information, providing supplies and maintaining communication networks. Every human on the planet had become part of the war effort, a single force united by a will to survive and to strike back. Captain Anna Reed's squadron navigated a particularly dangerous area, where debris from earlier battles floated like a deadly minefield. She twisted her ship through narrow gaps, dodging falling fragments and energy blasts. Missiles fired from modified alien ships struck the Therian fleet in vulnerable sections, and humans cheered over their comms as one massive warship began to break apart. Around them, human ingenuity and skill were proving more powerful than raw alien technology. Each victory, no matter how small, built confidence and momentum. The Therians struggled to respond. Their advanced technology, once thought invincible, was failing against humans who adapted faster than expected. Every tactic they attempted was countered by human innovation. When they tried to regroup and fire overwhelming energy blasts, humans had already anticipated the moves and adjusted their formations. When the Therians tried to retreat or reinforce damaged ships, human pilots intercepted them with daring maneuvers. The aliens began to realize that what they had assumed was primitive instinct was actually a carefully honed ability to fight and survive. In one daring move, Captain Laura Mitchell led a team of fighter jets through a canyon of floating debris. Using stealth and surprise, they struck multiple Therian ships simultaneously. Explosions lit the space around them, sending pieces of alien hull drifting in every direction. Laura's squadron returned to Earth's base battered but victorious, having delivered critical blows to the enemy fleet. Every attack was calculated, yet flexible, allowing humans to adapt in real time to changing conditions. On the ground, civilians continued to show extraordinary courage. They helped move weapons, guided supplies to frontline units, and repaired damaged vehicles and drones under dangerous conditions. Hospitals were filled with injured soldiers and civilians alike, yet volunteers worked tirelessly to care for the wounded. Each act of bravery, no matter how small, strengthened the human counteroffensive. Humanity was proving that survival depended not only on technology or strategy but also on courage, unity, and persistence. Commander Richard Hale coordinated multiple theaters of battle simultaneously. Fighter jets struck from orbit, missile systems targeted alien ships from the ground, and engineers manipulated hacked sensors to keep the enemy disoriented. Each move was a chess piece, every action a calculated risk. Humans were striking back with precision and creativity, showing the Therians that they could not be defeated by fear or superior weapons alone. The Therians' arrogance began to crumble. They had believed humans were fragile and predictable, unable to organize beyond instinct. Now they witnessed humans coordinating on a global scale, attacking as one, and adapting faster than any alien technology could account for. Every strike humans made was met with analysis, counteraction, and improvement. They were fighting not blindly but intelligently, learning from every moment of the battle. Captain Anna Reed guided her squadron to intercept the flagship of the Therian command fleet. Using a combination of modified alien missiles, energy cannons, and human piloting skill, they struck at weak points discovered during reconnaissance. Explosions tore through the hull, and alarms blared throughout the alien ship. Systems failed and the alien crew scrambled to respond. Human fighters circled and attacked again, leaving the Therians disoriented and struggling. Dr. Clark's team monitored the flagship, guiding pilots to vulnerable sections and adjusting weapon systems for maximum efficiency. Engineers repaired damaged human ships in real time, keeping the assault relentless. Soldiers and volunteers worked together, coordinating efforts across continents. Humanity's counteroffensive had become unstoppable, a wave of intelligence, courage, and determination that no Therian ship could ignore. Even as the Therians attempted to regroup, human forces pressed the advantage. Modified alien drones patrolled space, providing support to pilots and intercepting energy beams. Homemade weapons on Earth targeted supply lines and reinforcements, slowing the enemy's ability to recover. Civilians continued to provide critical support, acting as the backbone of the war effort. The entire planet had become a network of resistance, striking back against an enemy that had underestimated their resolve. By the end of the battle, the Therian command fleet was severely damaged. Several large ships had been destroyed, and others were retreating to repair facilities. Captain Anna Reed and her squadron returned to base, exhausted but triumphant. Pilots, soldiers, engineers, and civilians celebrated together, recognizing that their cooperation and ingenuity had achieved what many had thought impossible. The Therians had suffered shock after shock. Their confidence in human weakness was shattered. Every strategy they had relied on had been countered, every assumption about human inferiority proven wrong. Arrogance gave way to caution, and they realized that the human's so-called primitive instinct was in fact a highly developed skill set, a combination of courage, intelligence, adaptability, and unity that allowed them to survive and strike effectively. Commander Richard Hale addressed his forces. "We have done what we set out to do. We have shown that humans will not yield. We fight together, we adapt, and we strike when it matters. This is our strength." Across the planet, soldiers, engineers, pilots, and civilians understood his words. Every action they had taken had contributed to this moment. Humanity had not only survived, they had proven that they could fight back and win. In orbit, Captain Laura Mitchell observed the remaining alien ships retreating. The Therians had underestimated humans at every turn. They had assumed that fear would dominate, that chaos would paralyze, and that technology alone would secure victory. They had been wrong. Humans had proven that resilience, creativity, and unity could overcome even the most advanced enemy. Back on Earth, fire still burned in some cities, and the wounded were still being cared for, but hope had spread everywhere. People saw that the planet had not fallen, that humans had struck back and survived. Even the youngest children could feel it, a sense that humans were capable of incredible courage, intelligence, and unity. The Therians had learned a harsh lesson. Humans were not simply survivors, they were fighters, inventors, and unstoppable when united. Captain Anna Reed looked at the stars as she prepared for the next wave. Her ship was damaged but still operational. Around her, pilots repaired weapons, soldiers loaded missiles, and engineers fine-tuned drones. Humanity had learned that to survive they had to keep fighting, keep adapting, and keep striking. And as they prepared for the battles ahead, one truth was clear. The moment humans struck back, the war had changed. The Therians had underestimated a species that would fight against impossible odds, adapt faster than expected, and work together in ways that no one had predicted. What they had thought was primitive instinct had proven to be a carefully honed ability to survive, to think, and to act as one. Humanity had struck back, and the galaxy would never view Earth the same way again. The Therians retreated. One by one, their massive warships turned away from Earth, engines blazing, disappearing into the darkness of deep space. Their pride had been shattered, their arrogance humbled. For decades, they had looked down on humans, dismissing them as weak, primitive, and incapable of resistance. They had believed victory would come quickly, that fear and superior technology would be enough to subdue the planet. Now, as their fleet disappeared into the stars, the Therians realized how wrong they had been. Humans were not weak. Humans were not helpless. Humans were built to survive, to fight, and to rise against any enemy. Commander Daniel Harris stood on the deck of a repaired human aircraft carrier orbiting Earth. His uniform was dusty, his face streaked with sweat and soot, but his eyes were calm and resolute. Around him, pilots, soldiers, and engineers worked tirelessly to secure ships, repair systems, and ready Earth's defenses for whatever might come next. The battle had been long and brutal, but humanity had survived. Harris took a deep breath, letting the moment settle over him. This was more than survival, it was proof that humans could face the impossible and rise victorious. He addressed the assembled crews over the intercom, his voice steady and strong. "We fought not because we had no fear but because we had hope," he said. "We fought because we knew what was at stake. Humanity is not fragile. Humans are built to rise, to adapt, and to fight when everything is against them. Every victory, every sacrifice, every moment of courage has brought us here. We survived and we will continue to survive. This planet, our people, and our future are safe because we refuse to give up." As Harris spoke, pilots like James Porter trained new crews on the carriers. Fresh recruits climbed into cockpits, learning the lessons of the past battles. Porter demonstrated maneuvers, guided simulations, and shared knowledge gained from years of fighting the Therians. The new pilots listened carefully, absorbing every detail, every strategy, every tactic that had allowed humans to survive against overwhelming odds. Even in this moment of victory, training continued. Humans knew that the galaxy was vast, filled with civilizations that might one day challenge them again. Preparedness, skill, and vigilance would always be necessary. On the ground, Dr. Emily Clark and her team studied captured alien technology. Pieces of Therian ships, drones, and weapons had been recovered from the battle zones. Clark examined them carefully, analyzing energy systems, shield mechanisms, and propulsion units. She and her team worked tirelessly to understand the technology, reverse engineer it, and find ways to use it for humanity's defense. Every discovery was carefully catalogued. Every breakthrough could mean the difference between life and death in future conflicts. Her eyes sparkled with determination as she considered the possibilities. Humans had won the battle, but knowledge and preparation would ensure they could defend the planet again. Civilians across Earth participated in the effort. Volunteers sorted through debris, repaired damaged vehicles, and distributed supplies to the wounded. Cities were scarred, but people rebuilt with care and determination. Children played in parks repaired by communities, and families planted gardens in areas cleared of destruction. The spirit of survival and hope spread everywhere. Humanity had proven that strength was not measured solely by weapons or technology, it was measured by courage, unity, and persistence. In orbit, Captain Laura Mitchell flew a reconnaissance mission, scanning for remaining Therian ships that might return. Her squadron remained alert, ready to intercept any threat. Every movement was calculated, every sensor monitored for danger. Even as the immediate battle ended, vigilance remained. Humans had learned that survival was not a single victory, it was an ongoing effort, a commitment to readiness, and a refusal to be caught unprepared again. On Earth, people celebrated cautiously. Fireworks lit the sky in some cities, while in others, citizens simply embraced one another, grateful to be alive. News broadcasts shared the story of human resilience and courage. Reports described pilots dodging alien fire, scientists hacking enemy sensors, engineers repurposing alien technology, and civilians risking their lives to save others. Humanity's legend had begun to grow, not through arrogance, but through proof of collective strength and intelligence. The Therians were still visible on the edge of human sensors, retreating toward distant star systems. Their commanders communicated in silence, no longer confident, no longer proud. They had assumed humans were simple, predictable, and weak. Instead, they had faced a species that could learn, adapt, and unite faster than their calculations could predict. Every attack humans made had been met with planning, counteraction, and improvement. Every move had been calculated, every resource maximized, and every moment infused with courage. Humans had not only survived, they had taught the galaxy that they were a force to be reckoned with. Knowledge and training new volunteers. Humanity had survived the battle, but they were already thinking ahead. The lessons learned would not be forgotten. Humans understood that vigilance, preparation, and cooperation were as important as bravery. Commander Harris gathered the leaders of the human forces for a meeting. Engineers, pilots, soldiers, and scientists came together, discussing strategies, analyzing results, and planning future defenses. Every voice was valued, every idea considered. Humans had survived through unity and collaboration, and that unity would remain their greatest strength. As the Therians disappeared into the dark reaches of space, one truth became clear across Earth and beyond. Humans were not merely survivors, they were a species built to adapt, to fight, and to endure. They had faced a technologically superior enemy and had not only survived, but had struck back with skill, courage, and determination. Other civilizations would soon learn the same lesson. Humanity was a force to be respected. And so Earth stood ready. Pilots like James Porter trained new crews, Dr. Clark and her team continued to study alien technology, and civilians continued to contribute in ways big and small. Humanity had survived its first galactic war, but more importantly, it had proven something that would echo across the stars. Humans were built for war, not just to fight but to rise, adapt, and endure no matter the enemy. The moment of realization passed quietly but powerfully. The Therians had learned their lesson and humans had learned theirs. Courage, intelligence, unity, and determination had carried them through impossible odds. Humanity would never be underestimated again, and the galaxy had taken note. For every human, every victory, and every act of survival, one truth remained: humans were built for war and they would survive no matter the enemy. Commander Daniel Harris walked across the deck, observing the human crews working together. Mechanics repaired damaged ships, pilots reviewed mission reports, and soldiers trained for the next assignment. Harris felt pride but also humility. This victory was the result of countless acts of bravery, innovation, and teamwork. From the youngest volunteer to the most experienced officer, every person had contributed to the triumph. Humanity had survived because humans were built not just to endure, but to fight, to innovate, and to rise in the face of danger. In laboratories across the planet, Dr. Clark and her colleagues continued their work. They studied alien propulsion, energy shields, and communication networks, cataloging every piece of information. Clark's team shared their discoveries with engineers, who adapted human technology to incorporate alien advances. Weapons became more efficient, defense systems stronger, and communications networks faster and more reliable. Humanity had survived this first encounter, but Clark knew that knowledge would ensure survival in all future challenges. Pilots trained tirelessly, repeating maneuvers, running simulations, and learning from every engagement. James Porter drilled new recruits on evasive techniques, attack patterns, and coordinated strikes. Every pilot understood that victory had been hard-earned and that the galaxy was not safe. Humans had proven themselves capable of great courage and skill, but they could not afford complacency. Training ensured that every future pilot would be ready, that every human could contribute to the defense of their world. Across the galaxy, other civilizations took notice. Sensors detected human fleet movements, communication broadcasts, and reports of the battle. Word spread quickly of a species that had fought back against the Therians, using ingenuity, courage, and unity to survive. Some civilizations watched in curiosity, others in caution. Humans had proven themselves to be more than just survivors, they were fighters. They could adapt, innovate, and overcome threats far superior in strength and technology. Humanity's reputation had grown overnight. In the quiet moments after the battle, Commander Daniel Harris reflected on what had happened. He thought of every pilot who had flown into danger, every scientist who had worked tirelessly, every civilian who had risked their life for another. He thought of the cities scarred by energy blasts, the fires still burning, and the lessons learned. Above all, he understood one truth: humans were built for war, not in the sense of destruction, but in the sense of survival, adaptation, and resilience. They were capable of facing any enemy and rising stronger than before. Captain Anna Reed, who had led critical strikes against the Therian fleet, observed the stars from her repaired fighter. She thought about the first day of battle and the moment humans had begun to fight back. Every daring maneuver, every improvised weapon, every act of bravery had contributed to the outcome. She smiled faintly, realizing that what humans had accomplished was extraordinary. It was not luck or chance, it was courage, intelligence, and unity. Humans had turned fear into determination and chaos into strategy. On Earth, people began rebuilding their cities. Roads were repaired, hospitals restored, and homes reconstructed. Communities organized themselves to prepare for future challenges. Sharon.